I think what resonates with soul-led people is a deeper way to connect. And I work with a lot of warrior energy people, and warriors always need that action step. So the understanding of I can really tune into my soul and take that action step with grace.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Book More Show. It's Stuart Bell here, and today joined by Jennifer Urezzio. Jennifer, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you? I mean, I'm doing great with two crazy dogs barking their heads off, but I'm doing great.
Everyone loves dogs, so if there's some movement in the background, dogs and kids, it's never a bad
Dogs
thing
and
to
kids.
podcast. I think actually it's always in the Zoom world, which we're all in now. Everyone's got kind of that expectation that something's going on in the background.
Totally. Like when the cat and you see the tail going across this.
Right.
I always love that one.
I was on a call once, and a cat kind of was walking backwards and forwards in front of the person on the desk, and we don't have pets here, so I'm always as an outsider looking in. But I was kind of thinking, how can you? I don't know that I could even concentrate with like the tail brushing past your nose either way. But the
No,
person was focused.
I mean, that takes focus. I mean, back there's like our like living space. And the other day, my boyfriend came, luckily I was like, Warner, Jennifer Bloom saw you. He goes, oh my God, was I in my underwear? I was like, no, but dude, we've had this conversation.
Yeah. Do we need to put the tape back on the floor
Right, like,
before we
yeah,
start
like the current's not good. You got to be careful.
it? Right. Yeah, well, like I say, it could be worse. Um, Working from home, the fact that we're interacting with people all over the world kind of leads into what you do. And I was excited to chat. We caught up on LinkedIn first of all a few weeks ago, and we had a chance to catch up on the phone. On the phone, how old do I sound? On Zoom. But what I really enjoyed about our conversation was this kind of, I think, as I said, I'm much more analytical. My wife's much more kind of heart-led than I am. You bridge those two worlds together and bringing that kind of heartfelt, soulfelt focus into businesses. So why don't we start by sharing kind of your backstory, a little bit about what you do?
Sure. So I started off in marketing. I started off as a photographer and then realized I like to eat. And so I got a job in marketing, and I went up the ranks, and I was kind of really creative in like, I don't like to do this. I like to do that. So pay me for that. And I was the person that would come up with the segment ideas and story ideas and pitches to national media. And then I was really good at pitching national media. In fact, our organization was the people that PR firms would call to get their people on TV. So we were like the PR people, the PR people.
Right.
And I knew that there was something bigger inside of me. And I started to explore that with master intuitives and psychics and self development. And I was on the phone with this internationally known coach that was our client, counseling on her relationship with her daughter for 2 hours. And I got off the phone, I hung up, and I said to my boss, who is my best friend and was my best friend at the time, uh, she goes, did you just? And I was like, yeah, that's going to end really badly. And I'm really sorry. And she fired us a month later and
Oh,
cited
wow.
me not knowing her business. I did. I saw beyond the curtain and she didn't
Right.
like it.
Right.
And I thought, I should stop working in PR. I should go freelance and do this thing for real. And I started to do this thing for real. And at the same time, I was asking really big questions like, why am I here? I know my purpose. Like, why do I like that person and not that person? And, how do I kind of basically get what I want? Because I'm really pissed off that I'm not.
Right.
And what I heard was, oh, soul language. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to keep asking questions. And before long, I had this paradigm, this tool that puts tangibility to soul and the soul of a business. So people can have words to what they know deep down inside. And human beings love words. And when we have words, we can establish a clear connection. And that allows you to have a clear, constant guidance system that's accurate and helps you put good strategy into your business versus pain and programming. And I'll give you a really tangible example. So before I really did this thing called soul language, before it was a thing, I was on this phone with this client, a prospective client, and we were talking about what she needed and what she wanted. And I'd be like, oh, you know who you can talk to? You can talk to Stuart, and you can talk to Jennifer Bloom, and you can talk to Mary. And then finally, she's like, I don't think you don't understand that I would like to work with you. Like I was like, right? But when you're connected to soul, you're connected to your confidence, your enoughness, and you're not putting your limiting beliefs into everything you do. And so that's why we want to create that conscious connection. And since I'm so good at strategy, I have melded soul and strategy. So we work on a process of asking your soul and your business soul, what's the internal action for your personal soul? And the business soul is what's the next external action. Um, and it seems to be working really well for people and myself. And I think this is really important because especially business owners, because they just see the next client
Yeah.
instead of seeing in 10 years, decades.
And it's easy to dismiss or push to the side or not listen to the voice of the soul or the kind of internal direction that you want to go,
Yeah.
either because it's just focused on the tangible stuff, or it seems kind of you can't put your hands on it enough to really mold it into anything that you can use. That bridging between the kind of inner direction and the tangible next steps that people can take, has that been the key to make it resonate with more people? Or do you typically resonate with people who are coming more from the soul angle and then actually just get a lot of benefit from the tangibles?
That's a really great question. Um, and I'm a great question asker, so I'm impressed with your question, Stuart. I think what resonates with soul led people is a deeper way to connect. And I work with a lot of warrior energy people, and warriors always need that action step. So the understanding of I can really tune into my soul and take that action step with grace, I think that's what resonates with people.
Yeah,
Um, I'm also the person that people turn to who are the people that other people turn to. So, you know, I tend to be the strongest person in the room, and my people tend to be the strongest person in the room. And that sucks when you're falling apart or you don't, or you feel lost or you don't know what direction to take or
something to say.
things aren't
Yeah,
working, right?
yeah.
So I think that's also what resonates with people that, you know, uh, I'm doing this whole big event in September, and I asked everyone to pick the Marvel character that best represents their life and their business. And so I was like, oh, I need to pick one. And I was like, Scarlet Witch, yeah.
Oh, hang on a second. I've just lost your audio in the middle of this fantastic story.
That better?
That's better. Oh, there we go. We
So
got to Scarlet Witch.
so it's funny because every time I say Scarlet Witch, somehow the
Something
volume
happens.
goes off. It's hysterical. Okay, so everyone's like picking Scarlet Witch, and I'm like, oh my God, like, am I Scarlet Witch? Like, I could see that. Like, she does chaos magic, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, no, that doesn't feel like. And then I'm like, Nebula. Look, she's strong. She heals, right? She's kind of cranky and yet have a big heart. I'm like, I'm totally Nebula, right? And I think it's so important to have those kind of guideposts in your life to go, okay, what about this kind of reflects who I am? And I can utilize it to explain what I do more in a way
Right.
that people really understand. And when you do this crazy thing called soul language, it helps when you're really tangible. And I think where most soulful entrepreneurs fall down is they're not tangible. So my friend Aaron, back from the first story, used to do the big book marketing, BAM, book associated. It's in New York City, uh, and where she would be at her booth, and people would come up and talk about their books. And we have this joke because and I wasn't even there, and I can see it. This woman came up to like talk to her about her book and pitch her ideas, like former producer of The View, like, how can I be on TV? And the woman came up and went, well, I'm from Atlantis, and my book is about being from Atlantis. And Aaron went, yeah, tell me, like, being from Atlantis allows you to do this. Like, that's like,
Right,
and
something
right?
actionable.
Exactly. Tangible, actionable. Because now back then we had 5 minutes of like attention. Now we
Right.
have three, right? So
Yeah.
books, those expressions, they have to be something that is tangible and that people want to kind of highlight, even though we're not really using real books, although I buy books,
Yeah,
and
me too.
go back and again and again and again
Yeah.
as reference. So
That
when people are
reinforcing of the hook of the language that it resonates.
exactly, and when you have that, when it becomes that kind of, oh my God, I've got to read this again and again because it has so much weight,
Right.
because there's so much in between the lines, that's a powerful medium and that's a powerful expression of that person's expertise.
Yeah. I think that balance that you're describing of bringing the soulful, passionate, person-driven elements to a purposeful, tangible outcome, to be able to get that balance, as I said at the beginning, I come from such an analytical background that I have to be reminded to do the soulful side of things. But as an individual, I still feel where there's a lack of
Yeah.
resonance or where you don't feel like you're going in the right direction, but not necessarily having the language comes from the analytical side and not from the balance side. So we see it with the books that we do. It's either oftentimes, not always, but it's either people are just coming from, I've got a story and I'm struggling to anchor it in anything useful
Right.
for other people, despite the fact that their story is very valuable and it gives all those insights. Or, hey, here's steps XYZ, but I'm not bringing any story and there's no connection and who cares? So
Right.
to be able to strike that balance, the soul language as a framework, you were saying that it kind of came to you as part of the work of developing your own thinking around it. That framework, and I'm a sucker for frameworks. I kind of, as people are
So am
talking
I.
to me, oh, it's just such, because it gives that right balance of a hook here to hang something on, and
Yeah.
then a description and a level of detail to back it up, and catchphrases or hooks that you can remember in the future. So that soul language framework, bringing that together as I'm talking to people and they don't have a framework already, but I can kind of see the bones of it. It's sometimes difficult to get people to think in that way because they're very close to their own experience and their own stories, but they're not thinking about how to position it in a way that other people can kind of join them on the same journey. So for you personally, bringing that together, was that a challenge, or because of your background, obviously you've got something of an advantage there? Was it more straightforward?
I mean, I think it was because when I came up in marketing, right, we were taught like three. You need three. Like you need three talking points, you need three
Right,
messages, you need the top three. Like it was always, and of course, three is a divine number, duh. But you needed that 1, 2, 3 that people could follow you along.
right,
And so I think it was, education, but also a little bit gut because, you know, I I originally, my first job out of college was, well, my first job rather than the job that I did all through college, which was running a pest control company, but that's a whole nother story for a different day. Um,
because you had so much free time on your hands.
yeah, was working with numbers. And I lasted 2 weeks and they fired me,
Right.
which is so shocking. Because I did not get along, like the environment, the culture was not for me. Like, and I was like, then from that moment, I was like, well, where do I go? And I've just kept asking that question and I fell into or was guided, I would call fall into, now I would say guided
Yeah.
into PR. And then my boss got pregnant shortly after I joined. And they just gave me a pitch letter and a media list and went,
Have
go
at
make
it.
calls. That's it. That's all the guidance they gave me. And, so I think that it was feeling a deep sense of, yes, this is my place. And really good education and teachers. And that all is based on how humans think, right? We
Right.
need a structure. Everything is structured and highly intuitive, highly innovative, which I am one of those people. We like, oh, structure, but structure gives you a chance to break free and it gives the energy somewhere to flow. So when I'm
Mm,
talking with clients, I'm always like, think of structure like how buildings and earthquake zones are made. They're made to sway,
right.
right? And so you need that structure in order for your creativity to find purchase, or you're just running around like squirrel, and that doesn't help anyone.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a long explanation, but I think it was a little bit of both. And I think because one of my soul languages is called equalizer, it tends to be fairly balanced. Like when I take any of those quizzes, it's like always down, like down the straight line. Like they're
Yeah.
like, you could be this and you could be this. I'm like, yeah, because I'm pretty balanced in those areas. So yeah,
My Colby is 5464, so similar thing, kind of not
love
necessarily
that.
insistent or resistant, project manager, that kind of balanced approach of inputs and outputs. Um, the Soul Languages, the book, as that came together, was that a pretty early, an early iteration? Did you get to bringing it together in that format pretty soon in the journey?
So I started in 2008. The Soul Language book, I think, was published in 2013, I think. Um, I met someone early on who's the publisher of my book who has a Soul Language Pioneer, and she's like, this is groundbreaking. Let me help you put some structure around this, which is so funny from a pioneer, but because they're usually like, no
Off
structure.
onto the next thing.
Um,
Yeah.
so I had written the book half as really a certification or a big program teaching people about soul language. So the bones of the book were there. Um, and then I spent a year really updating the definitions of each of the soul languages. And then we spent a year editing the book,
Right.
which was painful. And
The
when we
least
were
fun part
down,
of the process,
so
for me at least.
because and rightly so, because they all had to have the similar format. They all had to have the similar kind of sound.
Yeah.
And then we had three different editors, like not because they gave up, but because we needed three different editors to do three different things. And towards the end, when we were on the like one of the last, like editing one of the last languages, and there's 107 languages. So the soul language book is like a tome. It's like 500 pages. And the editor was like, I don't know what that means. I was like, I don't know what that means either. But that language does knows what that means. And he goes, well, do you mean this? And he was like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, whoa, you've been editing this book so long that now you actually can speak in the language of soul. Like it was
Right.
freaky. And this guy didn't believe in anything like that. He was just like very dogmatic. And I was like, oh. Um, and then she was just about to hit the publish button. And I got a phone, sorry, dog. And I got a phone call that said, I don't think I can publish your book because she was going through this legal thing and she didn't want the book to be named in the legal
Right. And just get
settlement.
caught up in other stuff. Yeah.
Right. And I spent 3 days in bed. I'm like, I
Mm,
just spent 2 years. And like,
yeah.
what? And I was like, fine, I'll publish it myself, whatever. Right. And then she had a conversation with her lawyer and everything worked out.
Right.
But
But that as a kind of light at the end of the tunnel, just the final step, and then another hurdle gets thrown up.
yeah, and I think that's what people like writing a book is something that is a journey in itself. And I don't think a lot of people really understand that even when you write a fiction book, I used to have an intuitive teacher that would work with really famous authors, and they would get stuck in, because they channel, a lot of people just channel this.
Right.
They would get stuck in parts of the book because they were stuck in their own way. And it becomes this huge kind of evolutionary practice to write a book
Yeah.
and a confidence builder. Like you have to release any of the fear or the, oh my God, I'm not good enough stuff.
I think that all of those elements, as you say, of the kind of traditional, um, all of the traditional psychological elements of not being good enough or imposter syndrome or who would want to know this stuff. I mean, even to the extent of the most of the books that we're helping people write are more single subject, really in the lead generation side of things rather than definitely not the tome side of things. And people are coming to it more from a, I've got some information, I'm trying to share that information and then start a conversation rather than kind of like a educational piece, or if they're foundational in any way, it's in a small realm. But even within that, we still see people who, oh, why do you just do the same as what everyone else does? Why is this different? And it's the coming back to the soul language again, it's the connection that they're making with people, the way that they phrase things, their particular spin or take on things that adds the value, because it's for, particularly these days, I mean, 2 seconds on perplexity and you'll get the answer to, you'll fundamentally get the answer to everything. But the implementation of that, or an answer at least, the implementation of that, or what does that mean for the bigger picture, or can I do this myself? All of those things that an individual can actually help someone with to be able to break through those barriers and get it out there. I was interested to hear you say the editing stage and the iteration stage and the dialing in the language. I think a lot of times, particularly for people who aren't necessarily authors as such, they're business owners, but who want a book to share an idea, that discipline of going through, or the expectation that it is an iterative process, isn't necessarily, they just want a one and done type answer. But understanding that it is a process, that taking the time to go through your own thought process to kind of not just say something, but think about your thinking and how it fits in the bigger picture, it's quite transformational. And I imagine that's the same for people who go through the soul language workshops and approach. It's not just adding a label to a feeling, it's then, well, what does this mean and how does that impact the other things that I do and how I interact with people? Do people, once they're dialing in this language and they're listening to the intuition that they're getting around the business, is that a similar experience, that it's not just okay, now I can put a label on it and I move on? It's okay, now I've got a name for this thing, and the next step is really where the insights or the game changing thought technology comes from, because they've now got a foundation to move on from.
Yeah, with the business energy, you start asking questions directly to that energy. So you're like, okay, I want this goal. What do I do? And the business energy will answer you. And it will never tell you anything you don't resonate with. You might be in resistance with it. And
Right.
so it's like,
Oh,
wow,
that's
we
an
just did it,
interesting way.
right? We just
Yeah.
did it with a client. She's like, I don't know if this should be a program or like a new business. And I was like, well, let's ask the team. And we call it the team. And she's like, oh, program. I was like, well, how does that feel? She goes, actually, it feels good in the body. She could have said, well, I think it's supposed to be blah, blah, blah. Think is the key word there. Right.
Yeah.
And then we would have to do some internal actions to release that belief that's in the way.
Yeah. Actually, that point you just made there, that it's not that the message is wrong or it doesn't resonate, it's that there's a resistance built in to listening to that kind of intuition. That's a really interesting way. And I think that's what comes from frameworks and these things of thinking about it. It's the language that you get to help people break through. It's that level of expertise and the experience you've got in the helping the people who you've helped before you can see the thing that they don't see. I was just on a call with a client earlier today. They're a financial advisor dealing with divorced women, doing their asset allocation and retirement planning. So again, it's not rocket science. I mean, there's a certain amount of things that need to be done or not
Right.
done, but the way that he was talking about it, and the fact that he was saying that there's only really three answers. Everything falls into one of three buckets pretty much, but everyone comes in, the thousands of clients he's helped over the years, 30 years in business, they all come in through a different route. But if we tried to just force them into one of these three things straight away, then they would be resistant to it because they think that everything's unique. It's that guiding people on the journey. And yeah, I think that's as you were describing in your world, it's given the language to help people to get to those
Yeah.
buckets.
Yeah. I remember going to a state fair several years ago, and the psychic tent, there was a line around, and I
Right.
was like, see those people? They've got four questions: relationship, health, money, like career. Like that's it.
Right.
That all those questions are gonna fall. They think that they're unique and different, but
Yeah.
those are the only like, and it really kind of is the same thing, but it's, people need to hear their guidance and their next step through distinctive voices. And if we
Right.
don't give them, excuse me, come here, blah blah. If we don't give them the distinctive voice, there's a new baby downstairs, so there's people coming in and out of this house.
It's very exciting for dogs.
um, then you know, I could say something to one client and you could say something and they would hear it the same thing. They would hear it out of your voice because you're at the same vibration that they need to hear it at.
Right.
And by understanding your soul languages, by understanding the business energy, that puts you at the vibration of where you need to be to receive what you want
Right.
with ease and with grace and not hassle.
Right. And actually, that's a great point as well, because we've been talking a little bit about the business owner's ability to listen to their own voice and steer their own ship with all of the team giving the input. But actually, I guess once you start understanding soul language and then you start recognizing it in others, there's actually a whole element of helping how you communicate externally, not just the internal stuff.
Oh, yeah. Like, here's a perfect So several years, this got to be 15, 16 years ago, my mother, I get like, Calendly sends me a little thing. Linda Urezzio has an appointment with you. I was like, what? So I call her up. I'm like, Mom, I'll ID your soul languages, but I'm not having a session with you.
Right.
So we ID one of her languages, and she has the language of negotiator, which is a mission language. And so I identify it and I go, okay. So I would identify all of my support team people's languages. So I kept hiring these assistants and they were all negotiators. And I was like, yes, they're going to make new deals for me. No, I was just working on my mommy crap with my support team. So like when you really understand that, it really allows you to step back and go, whoa, I'm taking a lot of things personally. This is just all energy. How do I want to utilize that energy?
Right. And having, I mean, again, going back to the point of, I think that I come to things with that analytical mindset, and there's that separation between the input and how that's then processed, which can seem kind of cold and detached in the worst case scenario. But just having that filter point of, hey, information in, let's respond, not react. Having additional frameworks, the framework that you've got, the Colby framework that we mentioned before, and all of the other ones out there, that language that just helps you deal with and make sure that you are taking in all of the information and not being resistant to certain things and being open and responsive, transparent to all the information coming in. It definitely helps to assess things in a more complete
Yeah.
way, um, without turning into another hobby or sport by itself, of just
Right.
doing it for the sake of doing it.
Yeah. And that's key because I think what I love about soul language is it's the starting off point. So there's a lot less ability to use it as a crutch versus other paradigms where it's like, I'm a blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Right. When you
So
want to
make
think about that.
accommodations for me because I'm a high quick start. Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. Um, I'm super conscious of time as always. Really appreciate it. There's two more questions if you've got a moment that I wanted to really touch on. One was the book as it sits in your world. Are you using the book as lead generation at the top of the funnel? Do you use it as kind of like a reinforcing tool when you're going through the programs and having that as a place that people can learn more? Or is it just out there and it's kind of not necessarily directly connected with the business day to day?
I use it more as a follow-up for people to utilize their energy in a bigger way and to go deeper. At
Right.
first, it was a lead generator, but it's so huge
Yeah.
and it's so thick with knowledge that it becomes more of a reinforcement than a lead gen.
Yeah. And there's, because there is 107 soul languages within it, I guess the opportunity then arises, you've done the work to kind of get the language around each of them. So now you've got this whole arsenal of tools that you can deploy in all of these different ways. Was that something that, is that a lot easier to do because you've got this thinking in the book and it's easier to take pieces out as you need them rather than trying to create it on the fly? You've kind of got this thing on the shelf that you can pull from.
So the book really focuses on the paradigm of what the categories mean and the languages and how to use it. So that's like one piece of my content. And then from there, I've taken what people's main challenges are and created content from there.
Right.
So the book for me tends to be a standalone object
Yeah.
where my content then is a whole other library of content, anything from my favorite program, how to energetically choose clients and not to go broke. Love that title. It's called Working for Peanuts, by the way. um, or Coming Back After Money Broke Your Heart. Those are offshoots of working with people and their greatest challenges and
Right.
content to tackle their challenge.
Yeah. More connected with where they are in the moment rather than academically
Yeah.
assigning names to things, which again is such a great way of thinking about it because it's engaging with people with the thoughts that are going on in their head. So last question then, it's the listening to a podcast or watching us on a podcast, it's people are resonating with the idea, but it's difficult for them to plug in all the gaps without doing something. So an easy start for people, a place that they should go to first if someone's resonating with the idea of soul language and thinking that I do hear these, not hear these voices, but hear these voices, and what's the interpretation? What's an easy way for people to get started and
I
explore?
always suggest people sign up for a discovery session. It's under the soul language section. We ID one of your soul languages. It's a half an hour. It says 15 minutes. It's really a half an hour. That will give you a chance to see if you resonate with the paradigm, and actually an experience of it, because that's key.
Right.
So that's the best way, because we're tangible beings and we have to do
Yeah.
tangible things versus, you know, soul language is something that you can read about, but it's also something that you are experiencing, and you just need to know that you're experiencing it.
I think particularly for this type of thing, I mean, you can read about it all day, but 2 seconds of experiencing something is worth 10 days of reading something
Yeah.
in this case. So that's soullanguage.us
Yes, that
is the
is.
domain. Perfect. I'll put links to this in the show notes. So as people are watching or listening along, just click on the link below and we'll point people straight to that direction. I'll connect people up to, I'll put your LinkedIn profile in there as well, because that's always a great way to connect. Jennifer, just thanks for your time again. It's so exciting to be able to share more frameworks and more ideas with people, because if it just resonates with one more person, then the podcast has done its job and made a difference for that person. So yeah, thanks for your time.
Thank you. I'm really grateful. And sorry about the crazy dog.
Actually, you know what? Zoom is doing a pretty good job of cutting out the background noise, because I think you can hear it 100 times more than we can hear it.
Thank you
uh,
very much, Stuart.
Been a pleasure. We'll circle back in a couple of months for sure, and it'll be great to dive a little bit deeper with people. Everyone, thanks for listening as always. As I say, I'll put links directly in the notes below, so whether you're listening on a podcast player or checking it out on the website, just click below and find out more about what your soul language is. So thanks everyone, and we will catch you in the next one.
Stuart, thank you so much. I'm gonna go because there's a
Yeah,
new baby
definitely.
downstairs and I need to get her to stop barking. So
Yeah,
thank
no
you
problem at all.
so much.
Thanks, Jennifer. I'll
Bye.
keep you posted. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.